The civil rights movement is a movement that a lot of people sometimes transform it into something that the people that were involved don't even recognize anymore. The civil rights movement included many very courageous people, including very courageous women, in the forefront doing all the background work. Now, there's no way that Rosa Parks, first of all, she was not a little tired old lady who just decided to sit down. She was a militant organizer, and they had been planning a strategy on how to deal with the racism in public transportation for years. This was not a new thing because Rosa's feet were hurting her and she just sat down and then the movement just rose up. And that's another thing, that's mythology. That's not how any movement gets started. No movement gets started that way. The significance of the bus boycott is that it went on for over a year and that it would not have been successful if only Rosa Parks was on strike. So the significance should be to us, how do we build movements when all the people that are affected, or the majority of them, a significant majority, are involved in leading that movement? The people who rode the buses at that time were workers. They were the poorest people in the cities. They couldn't afford to have a car, just like in New Orleans. The people that died and couldn't get out of New Orleans wasn't because they were stupid and they didn't know there was a hurricane and the levees were going to breach, because they didn't have no money and they didn't have no cars. So the sisters and brothers who took the buses every day, who were dehumanized and told they had to sit in the back although they were paying the same fare, were mainly working class poor people in that city. And they walked or pooled whatever cars other people had, helped and supported each other, and fought against the threats of losing their jobs and being lynched to bring that public transportation system to its knees. They didn't go and chain themselves to the bus for one day and they said, oh, I got to go to lunch now. They didn't go and march around the bus depot when nobody was there, or march around City Hall. They said, the buses carry us, we ain't gonna be on the bus, so you ain't carrying nobody. You work at a place, you don't treat me right, I either leave the place on strike or I take the factory over like the Republic workers did in Chicago. That included sisters. The people we're dealing with only understand one thing. They understand power that will disrupt their greedy, controlling, oppressive, exploitative ways. You can't exploit me if I take myself out the game. You ain't gonna exploit me no more because I'm not gonna be there at work. And the rest of, so how are those machines gonna work? How is your house gonna get clean? How are your children going to be taken care of? How are those elderly people going to be taken care of? How are the people in the hospital going to be taken care of? How are the students going to be taught? How are the auto cars going to be built? How is the fruit going to be picked? How is the meat and the chicken that we eat going to be processed? Who is going to ride the trucks to take them there? Could you imagine in New York City if for 1 hour the municipal workers, DC 37, supposedly one of the most powerful, TWU transit workers, local 100, CWA workers, communication workers, utility workers, didn't work for an hour? Would they not demonstrate to the billionaire mayor, Bloomberg, who has the power? We do. You don't have the power by talking about it. You have the power by doing. And what you do, you understand from the beginning that it is a sacrifice. You don't go on strike and then ask somebody, where's my regular paycheck, which some people do. You don't go on strike and say, well, if the solidarity people raise money, it's going to be equal to my paycheck. No, it's not. You don't take a day off from work to come to 2006 May Day march and then go back to the boss and say, well, I was down at that march at Union Square, could I still get paid? You don't. You know from the beginning, and that's what we also, part of our responsibility is to understand and for people to help people not be afraid. You understand if you organize a union, you might be fired. If you organize a union, you ain't gonna get that promotion that the boss was winking at you and telling you might get. If you go on tennis strike, the landlord might try to put you out. If you have a strike on a plantation, because most of the places that those workers still work on, they're still plantations, and not think that the owner of that agribusiness is not going to do something to you. So you have to go in, because when you go in with the understanding, you cannot mislead people and lie to them and act like this is some picnic. You know, it ain't a picnic. It's a war. It's a fight against we talk about the viciousness of them, and then we fight them with a feather. You can't fight these vicious people with a feather. You also can't kill them with statistics. You can't get them to pray. You can't morally convince them, because they ain't moral. They know the statistics themselves because they treated them, and they only deal with people who are powerful. And we are powerful. That's the importance of learning about our history and looking and paying attention to what's going on all the time around the world, because it gives us a signal. They didn't want us to know about the Haitian Revolution because it would inspire the slaves in the United States to free themselves. Or they didn't want them to know about the Quilombos in Brazil because it would inspire the other slaves in that continent and all across the seas to free themselves. So they're not stupid. Keep them ill-informed or belittle them and say, oh, those people are crazy over there. You know, you don't want to model yourself after them. There's something wrong with them. Oh, they're so unpleasant. You know, we didn't write letters and ask could we come to a meeting. We found out that there was a board of a corporation that was having a board meeting, and they were still dealing with South Africa. We went to the board meeting. And we didn't go there quietly with nice little words and our college-educated phraseology. We went there to take the shit over and stop the meeting until they dealt with us. As women, this is a critical issue. You have a loud, like me, and powerful voice. Let it come out. We are in some strategic places in our economy. Show them that. Show them that if you ain't there, it ain't gonna happen. Show them that. Show them that collectively. Show them that you have the way to connect and join hands across seas, across language barriers, across differences in culture.